Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Thursday. It's Daryl here. It is bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, I think you guys should be seeing this video Thursday morning at 3 a.m. I'm actually making it Wednesday afternoon, truth be told. There's a few things I want to talk about. This is going to be a recovery video. A lot of times the biggest question I always get is, how did you do this? How did you manage to stay clean? The percentages I heard all through recovery, going in my 13 trips to detoxes and recoveries, I remember them sitting us all down in the hospital and in detox and recovery, and I heard this over and over again. You know, the whole room full of people, about 30, 35 people, all gathered in the meeting room in the main room, and they'd make a point of saying only 2 of you out of say 30 or 35 will actually manage to stay clean for 1 year, and the rest of you will relapse and continue relapsing. You know, so the success rate is very small. So I get questions a lot, and one of the questions I get is how did you do this? And that's kind of what this video today has to do with. Today, I'm going to tell you guys about two. They sound like simple little issues, but there's a bigger point to this. And I'll explain that to you. You know, there's 2 little issues that have come up in my life, and they're causing me. I've been using the word anxiety a lot, and they've been causing me a little anxiety. But there's a bigger picture here. Oh yeah, before I get into this, I'd like to talk about yesterday's video because there's something that's bothering me about it. At the end of yesterday's video, I was talking about having been with 2 trans women, and at the end of the video, I think, looking back, I think I was trying to be a little provocative. I said, yeah, I might do it again, or I would probably do it again. You know, and to be honest with you guys, I've always tried to be 100% straightforward with you guys. That's been bothering me since I made the video this morning. That's really not true, and I'm not saying this because I'm worried about people thinking I might. No, I'm a straight guy. And I'm not saying this because I'm worried people might think I'm bi or something like that. That's not it at all. That's not the concern. The concern is, I don't think it's true, because if a situation like that ever came up, it would be a trigger for me. You know, because the way that it happened back when I was using, that kind of situation, and those kind of people working in this business, it would be an issue for me. I would most definitely not do that again, because I think it would be a trigger for me if that were to happen. You know, once I gave it some thought. So I just wanted to clear that up. Like I said, and it's not because it's what you might think. You know, at the end of the video I said, well, I might do that again if I had the opportunity, and it's not because I worry about people thinking I'm gay or bi or something like that. That's not it at all. Okay, now that we've cleaned that up, I've got 2 small issues that have come up recently, and you're going to probably, you'll probably mock them, you probably make fun of them. One, the library is claiming that I didn't bring back a video. Now, this has happened twice before, and I know I brought back the video, okay? And so it's a bit of an issue. You know, how do you tell them, I know I brought this back? I'll talk about that in a second. And I haven't been getting my mail, and I still haven't solved this problem yet. I haven't got mail here for 2 weeks, okay? Last week, after 1 week, I went to the post office, and I went in and I talked to the person working at the desk. And I said, look, I haven't gotten mail in a week, and I'm kind of concerned about this. And she went into the back and she called the actual person on the route. And he said, oh, well, he's got 2 pieces of mail today, as a matter of fact. I said, oh, good, okay. So, and she said, there's no problem. Your mail's not on hold or anything. You know, you're getting 2 pieces of mail today. So I said, okay, thank you. And I walked out. And it was 2 pieces of junk mail. And since then, a week ago, I haven't gotten any more mail again. And my bills are all late, and I'm getting concerned. Because I've been in recovery, one of the hardest things I've done is rebuild my credit. And it's gotten to a point where it's pretty good. I'm pretty proud of it. To be honest, it's the high 700s. And I'm terrified that my bills or something else is going to come in, something important, and I'm not. And I have no idea why I'm not getting my mail. This is a weird thing. In the video I did about 2 weeks ago, when this first started happening, is I talked about yelling at a young lady, a Gen Z lady that took my parking space. And I don't know if that has something to do with it, because right after that, the next day or two, I stopped getting my mail. Okay, there's a bigger picture here. Like I said, these are two relatively small things. And then last week I talked about how I mentioned how I almost got hit by a truck on my bicycle, on my mountain bike. Now this is the point I want to make. When I first got into recovery, like the first years even, it sounds kind of naive to hear myself say this, but I thought, I was doing the right thing. I was, I'm honest. I'm living by the rules of I'm not using, I'm not drinking. I'm being good to other people. My car's all registered, insured, everything's up to date. I pay my bills ahead of time. So when I first got clean and sober, I really was under the impression, and this sounds silly to me, it sounds naive, that there would be no problems. If I do everything right, then everything should turn out right, so I should have a pretty smooth sailing, a pretty easy life. And that is not the way that life works. I know most people probably learn this, in their late teens, early 20s, but I was using my whole life. So there was a period, for the first couple of years when I got clean and sober, I was doing everything right, and all of a sudden, stuff would happen, other people's mistakes, or just stuff out of, just pure chance, chaos, whatever. And things would go wrong in my life. I'd lose my apartment, or people would pass away, or stuff like this. My mail stops coming. Other people make mistakes. And I was kind of angry when this first, I was like, why is this happening? This isn't supposed, I know, hearing myself say it now, it sounds ridiculous. It sounds naive. But when I first got clean and sober, and it's hard, you have to learn all over again how to deal with problems, how to deal with anxiety and your patience and your anger and and everything, because all those emotions and all those feelings have been pushed down by the drugs I was using, and I didn't realize how much those feelings were pushed down. So I was under the impression that, I think a lot of other people in recovery too deal with this. I'm doing everything right. I'm living, I'm living a good, honest, clean life by the, I'm a law-abiding, productive citizen. Why are bad things still happening to me? And when this first started happening, this can be a trigger for relapse. And that is the point of this video. This is one of the things when people ask me, well, how did you do this? I had to get rid of every single person I ever used with or ever drank with. I just do not hang around with them anymore. I don't take their phone calls. They're not bad people. They're still good people, but they are triggers for me. That was one of the biggest things I did. I had to get rid of all the people, all of them, the old girlfriends, my old buddies, my best friends, all the people that I used to live to, all the people that I used to party with or use with or drink with or go to the bars. Cut contact. I changed my phone number. Didn't answer their calls. I tell them one time up front, it's nothing to do with you, but I can't. There's no point in us continuing this relationship. It's nothing personal, and I hope you understand. But you're not going to see me around anymore, and this is something I have to do. But the other thing now about these problems, and when these things first started happening. All of a sudden, I'm living right for the first 8 months, the first 9 months, and all of a sudden a couple, and you hear how bad things always happen in threes, or fours or fives, when it rains, it pours, as they say. And all of a sudden, bam, 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 I would get hit with all these things that were out of my control. I've talked about that before. Things are going to happen in your life when you're in recovery that you just can't control, and you have to just, instead of, when this first started happening, I would get angry, or I would think of relapsing. I'd be like, what's the freaking point? I'm doing everything I should be doing by the book, everything. I'm living my life good and honest and clean, and this crap is still happening to me. The universe sucks, man. What's the point? And I don't think like that anymore. But that's a trap that a lot of people fall into, in my opinion, in the beginning months of recovery. Is a high expectation for life to go smoothly. I think one of the things is, dealing with life on life's terms. I think that's another one of the NA or AA catchphrases. And this, what I'm saying right here, this is the meaning of that. Bad things are still going to happen. Sucky things are still going to happen. People are going to do things to you that suck. That it's just going to happen for no reason, nothing you did, and nothing you could do to prevent it. And you're going to get screwed, and it's going to happen regardless if you're living your life perfectly by, within the lines. And the best thing, what I discovered is, this is the good side that I found of this. I prioritize. You can't ask yourself why it happened, and then don't even bother. It happened, and that's deal with it. So now, like with these two issues, with the library, and I go to the library every day, and that's a big deal for me. I really don't want to have to pay for a video that I know I returned, and that's what I would have to do because I love going to the library, and I want to still keep going there, but And here's the thing: the last two times that happened, somebody there made a mistake. And I said, well, here, let me go look on the shelf. I bet you, and I found the video. I actually found the video that they told me I still had at home. And I was, and this is the thing, you got to be, I didn't rub it in their face or anything like that. I said, people make mistakes. I understand. I'm just glad we straightened it out. That's the way to deal with these things. You don't want to burn bridges. You don't want to blame other people. You don't want to yell, because that's when I was first getting clean. I had a lot of anger. I shouldn't, why are these things happening to me? Now the mail, like I said, I went there last week already, and I thought I had it straightened out, and I could tell when I went there last week that it's almost like walking a tightrope, because I think these people have a lot of pride in their job. And when I went in there and they said, I'm not getting my mail, I think I got this feeling. And the coincidence here is my mother and my stepfather are both retired mail delivery people, so I know they have a lot of pride in how they do their job. So I wanted to be very careful on, very clear that I'm not blaming them. I am concerned. This is an unusual thing that's happening. And I'm wondering if there's a reason for it. I'm nervous. I'm worried about my credit. I'm worried about my bills. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But I need to ask this question for my sanity, from anxiety. And even though I did that, I still kind of sensed that the post lady there was defensive. She's like, there's nothing wrong with your mail. As a matter of fact, he says you got two pieces, and she seemed very defensive, and you don't want to, and here's the thing, after, once you learn that this bad stuff's going to happen, it's going to happen to you, even though you're living a good life. And I get pride in the way that I deal with it now. It's like, okay, I can cross that one off my list. I can cross that one off my list. I kind of prioritize in a list of what's the most important problem, what's the first problem I gotta have to tackle. Don't ask me, I don't bother asking why this happened or whose fault it is, because that's really not important. What's important is solving the problem and moving forward and moving on to the next problem. Life is a series. A lot of times life is just a series of one problem after the next. And what I learned was I get a feeling of pride, of being a responsible person, able to deal with these issues, that as I solve them one by one, and I try to do it in a respectful, low key manner, not getting angry, to people that before I might think they might have wronged me, or, why'd you do this to me? Why'd you screw me over? Why do I have to deal with this? Those aren't the things that I ask myself anymore. All I have to do in my mind is tackle this problem in the best way I can, and solve the problem and move on to the next one. And that gives me a sense of pride. It gives me a sense of being responsible. Again, and at 58 years old, it's a good feeling. I know I'm late, because all those 2 years that I was using. A lot of times I've heard people say that people in recovery, when I first heard this, I didn't want to believe it, that people in recovery are emotionally stunted. I've heard this. I've heard doctors and counselors say this, that when you first start using, say I started using at 18, you stop growing emotionally at 18. And I stopped using at 40. And I started growing again, and I didn't want to believe it at first. It's a sucky thing to want to believe, that I'm emotionally stunted, with all the people that I grew up with, all my classmates. But I found it really is the truth. I'm catching up on a lot of things. One of my first girlfriend, or a second girlfriend, Audrey, had to teach me how to use a credit card just 10 years ago. I didn't know how to use a credit card. I didn't know how to sign off, sign how much gratuity and tax and all that stuff. This little book, the book of, what's this book you get at the end of the meal? I didn't even know what that was, and it's embarrassing. I'm 45 years old and I can't even do that because I spent so many years in addiction. But it's not something to be ashamed of. It's, I'm proud that it's something I've overcome, and I move forward, and I keep tackling these problems as they come at me, and it builds a confidence in me that I can handle anything. The more problems I solve, the more confident I get. That anything that comes my way, it's going to suck, but I can deal with it. I'll solve the problems. I'll prioritize it and tackle it and solve it and move on. And it's just another notch on my bedpost or notch on my belt or whatever you want to call it. Dealing with life on life's terms. There's life, it's tough. Stuff happens, as they say. Just because you're clean and sober doesn't mean that you're going to be living a magic fairy tale life. And unfortunately, I know how crazy that sounds. That's what I thought if I did everything right, I would have almost no problems. I'm doing everything right. What could go wrong? Stuff still goes wrong all the time. And it doesn't really do any good to ask why or whose fault or why this happened. That's really inconsequential. The most important thing is tackling the problem and moving on to the next one and learning from it. And that's my tips for staying clean and sober. Recovery is possible. I've been clean and sober since October 23rd of 2006. I'll say it again. Recovery is possible. This is the best life. These are the best years all around. Financially, emotionally, money, family, everything. My happiness, everything. This is the best life I have had in all my 58 years of being clean and sober. Recovery is possible. Have a good Thursday.